We'll check to make sure that that is indeed recording. And it looks like the recording has begun. So fabulous. Well, welcome. First and foremost, we want to welcome all of you to the final of our series here, Navigating Your Data Analytics Career Journey Employer Panel event. My name is Alyssa Laskowski, and I work on the SNHU Career Services team here at SNU. And my role is to partner with academic faculty and staff to host webinars like this one this evening. And so I'd like to take a brief moment to allow my co-host Joe to say hello and introduce himself.
Thank you, Alyssa. Joe Timmons. I'm the Associate Dean of the Undergraduate Data Analytics Program. Happy to see all of you show up. This is the third career seminar, and exciting to see the companies that we have presenting today. You guys are going to get some really good answers, I know. And that's it.
Perfect.
Continue, Alyssa.
Thanks, Joe. So just some general housekeeping rules. So again, all of those in the audience this evening, your cameras and microphones have been muted and turned off. And as a reminder, this webinar is being recorded and will be recorded. So we do encourage all of those in the audience to utilize the chat box for this panel event. And so as Joe alluded to, this is part 3 of our 3-part series. So don't worry if you've missed out on part 1 or part 2 of our series. You will not be lost. You can also view those video recordings anytime you want to watch them in case you may have missed anything. So I'll be sure to add those links here in the chat momentarily. But let's go ahead and get started. So your experience here at SNHU is important to us. It is our policy and practice to create an inclusive and accessible learning environment. If there are aspects of this presentation's design or delivery that present barriers to accessibility, please notify the appropriate accessibility center. So online students, you can email OAC at SNHU or call 866-305-9430. If you're a campus student, you can email cac@snhu.edu or call 603-644-3118. And if you're SNHU staff, please email hr@snhu.edu. So our agenda today starts by introducing our panelists, and then we'll be asking them our moderated panel questions, and then we will conclude with open Q&A from all of you in the audience, and then we'll do a final wrap up to our series. So once again, as a reminder, all attendees' mics and cameras have been turned off or muted for this webinar, and the webinar is being recorded. Also, you are not required to take any notes, but of course you are more than welcome to do so. All attendees here will receive a follow-up email to your SNHU email address with the resources we share as well as a link to this particular recording. And as I noted, we will have time for Q&A at the very end of this presentation, so please feel free to wait to add your questions into the chat box and then we will address them aloud for you at the end. So without further ado, let's go ahead and introduce our panelists. So Eliza is the head of measurement for the Advanced Advertising Innovation and Attribution Revenue Research Team at A+E Networks, developing audience-based targeting and attribution solution platforms, A&E Precision and A&E Performance. She utilizes data-driven capabilities to optimize media campaigns, measure advertising campaign effectiveness across platforms, and provide insights on consumer purchase behavior to drive true ROI for brands. Tommy is a senior technical recruiter at American Systems. Based in Washington, D.C. area, American Systems is a government service contractor focused on delivering valued services to customers in areas of national priority and one of the largest U.S. employee-owned companies. Tommy has over 9+ years of experience hiring professionals in various technical roles. He's previously supported recruiting efforts for multiple Fortune 500 companies and currently helps find the best talent for different U.S. Navy and U.S. Coast Guard programs within American Systems. And Yvette is the Chief Information Officer of the Defense Technical Information Center, a position she has held since her appointment in October 2016. Her responsibilities include policy and strategy development, preparing DTIC for the future of cloud, artificial intelligence, and machine learning aligned to DTIC and Undersecretary of Defense for research and engineering initiatives, as well as staff development. She is an SNHU alum and earned her master's degree in data analytics. And Dr. J.T. Rigsby is a seasoned data and analytics leader with over 20 years of federal experience, currently serving as the Chief Analytics Officer at the Defense Technical Information Center. In addition to his federal role, Dr. Risby is an adjunct professor at the University of Mary, Washington, where he teaches courses in computer science, machine learning, and data mining. With a PhD in computational science and informatics from George Mason University, he is passionate about fostering the next generation of data science professionals. And Eveline is a senior recruiter and has worked with the Walt Disney Company for over 24 years. Her career path has concluded frontline operational roles and leadership positions, eventually leading her to recruitment. For the last 12 years, Eveline has focused primarily on college program and internship recruitment. She enjoys career coaching her current interns and providing students with opportunities that may launch them into their lifelong career journeys. And apologies, just realizing that her image is not showing up. So once again, technology sometimes doesn't always work out for us. But apologies, Eveline. I'm so glad you are here. Welcome all of our panelists. And so we will start this evening by asking our panelists questions related to their career journey, career exploration related to data analytics, and finally, trends in data analytics. And we'll randomly call on a panelist to begin and then give everyone else the chance to answer if they wish. So panelists, we do ask that you keep your answers brief to ensure that we get through all the questions. We really would appreciate that. And so, if any of you can't tell, I'm a little under the weather and my voice is about to give out. So, Joe has graciously volunteered to handle most of the panel questions this evening. But I would like to kick things off first, if you don't mind. So, we'll go ahead and begin with the first question here. What has your career journey looked like? And so, Yvette, as an SNHU alum, I'd love to have you start with this question, please.
Sure. So I am not a data analytics practitioner, but I was interested in the program because as CIO and my role in having a role in a fairly small federal agency within a large federal agency, I got to be part of standing up our data analytics program. So JT, Dr. Grigsby here was one of our first hires. He's our chief analytics officer, and he can actually speak more to the data analytics journey piece of things. But for me, it was really helpful having this context and being able to advocate for the needs of the program and to understand a little bit of where they were heading and to make sure that our agency is headed in a direction that is leveraging data analytics and making the most of all of the opportunities we have available to us. Yeah, absolutely. Look at our website. We are a data organization and we hold a rich repository of scientific and technical information, and our goal is to analyze it. And I think my note as far as my career journey is that I started as a political science major and I meandered my way over to the IT world. And so my message, I think, to everybody on here today is just be open to opportunities that you might not expect. And do consider federal employment because that sense of mission can really do wonderful things, I think.
All right, Joe, I'll kick it over to you if you want to select our next panelist. Or really, I think what we'll do is just if anyone would like to answer and share. But Joe, I'll kick it over to you to handle the rest of the questions this evening.
Thank you, Alyssa. All right, the next question, if you want to bring it up. Because I did not memorize them. There was a lot of them. What professional development, career resources, or networking opportunities did you leverage along the way? And I feel like this should be Yvette, but I would like to try Lisa, sorry.
Hi. Yeah.
Is it Elisa or Eliza?
It's Eliza. Yes,
Elisa, okay.
Eliza. So thank you. So my professional development definitely has grown over the course of the years. So I've been in advertising, research, analytics for about 16 years now. And when I started at the Nielsen Company, which if anyone is ever interested in getting into any kind of advertising, research, analytics at agencies, at streamers, at any kind of media publisher, Nielsen data is extraordinarily important to know. I used a lot of resources like industry resources. So if there's a field that you're interested in getting into, my recommendation is to find those types of industries and just join them all to network. For example, I was part of WICT, Women in Telecommunications. I was a part of ANI, which is Advertising Women of New York. I also was in the ARF, which is the Advertising Research Federation. And I had roles in all of them. I got mentors in all of them, and you start to be able to network I was in the young professionals group of the ARF. I was the chair of the mentoring program. Now I'm an alumni and an advisor on the board of the ARF. So it's really about just finding your industry organizations and going to their events, joining their webinars, especially in person if you can, networking with people in your industry.
Did anyone else on our panelists wish to add kind of a different take in terms of your path and how you got to where you were on the data analytics side of what you've seen work? If not, we have plenty of questions. That was just thrown
I
out
think
there.
I would foot stomp what Elisa said about finding mentors. And they can come in many different shapes and flavors. And it's not always necessarily just in your professional skill area. You can have mentors in lots of different ways that can help you to get a different perspective and to really grow and just stay curious and continue to develop and build your career and take your journey.
Yeah, and I second both what Elisa and Yvette had said. Networking is so huge. I'm, as you guys all saw, on the recruiting side, right? So I will recruit for the individuals that are doing all the analytics piece and all of the way more intelligent people than I am is what we look to hire for. But I can definitely say networking is one of the biggest things. Still to this day, even in this technological age that we are in, where there's so many Zoom meetings and meetups and Teams meetings, doing it in person has allowed me to grow my career as well. I remember I when I worked on the staffing agency side and used to support all these Fortune 500 companies like Capital One and Deloitte, right? The way to find individuals and really grow your pipeline of candidates is to go out to these meetups where they're talking about these different topics and one, not only build relationships and gain those mentors, like Lisa and Yvette said, but then also you just open different doors for yourself to explore as well. It's so huge in your career as you continue to grow.
I'm John Rigsby. So my career path in the early days was a lot more academic. I was definitely a researcher. And I would say early in my career, one of the biggest things is getting involved with conferences, getting involved with associations. Like my first membership was with the American Statistical Association, then with IEEE, SPIE, places like that. And the nice thing about that is, especially younger in your career, they tend to have subgroups for students, people working on masters, people working on dissertations, undergraduate degrees, and a student section, right? And getting involved in those student sections is a really good way to find all the other people that have common goals, common aspirations, and building that network of information sharing. And that's the thing, is a lot of those conferences, that's really what they're in the end about, is staying abreast of the latest greatest research, things that are going on in the community, but also meeting the other people that are doing work, doing research in the areas that you care about. That's really important. It's also a lot of fun and a good way to stay on top of like what's new and who's doing what.
And I was going to say, before we continue, we do have some questions. I see some questions popping up, and believe it or not, we've got some good ones coming up. So for those of you in the chat, I'll try to answer them. But Alyssa, do you have the next question for that? And I don't know if Evelyn, you wanted to pipe in or not. I know that everybody else was. So I'm going to say the next question for you. So it's coming your way.
Yep, there it is. Should be on the screen there. What's one last thing you wish someone told you during your career journey?
That's for you, Evelyn. Evelyn, sorry.
All right. Well, actually, I would piggyback on what everyone was saying earlier, that it's all about networking. I wish somebody had told me, like, never underestimate the power of an introduction or a networking opportunity, because that first impression can be a lasting impression that tears through many levels of people. I've seen so many positions where people have been hired just because somebody had lunch with someone and dropped a name, or, you know, oh, I knew this person who worked for this person, let me give them a call. So definitely make sure those first impressions are lasting impressions, and put that right foot forward from the start, because you never know. It really is a small world. I've circled back through my company to work with people I worked with 20 years ago now. So you never know how the world is going to revolve.
I would like to just add something, maybe not necessarily one thing I wish, but I think something I wish others would do in their career journey, just from all the hiring I've done over the last couple of years. The still relevancy of an emailed thank you note after you interview, I've noticed nobody does it anymore. Some people do it, but I just want to tell you, like, the power of doing that just makes you stand out in my mind and everyone else's mind, that you actually want this job, because otherwise we're left there thinking like they're not really interested. That's how we take it, of like, they never sent a thank you note, like they're probably not interested in this job, they don't have passion for this job. So, you know, if you want the job, make sure that you're doing all the little things that are going to make you not be second guessed as to why you should be hired. And please turn your cameras on. I feel like I shouldn't even have to say that, but it is shocking how many interviews where the first few moments, you know, you have to say, turn your camera on. You know, this is a face-to-face interview. It's, you know, sometimes it's a bit shocking that that's not a given, but apparently it's not. So I wanted to say it. Please turn your cameras on.
I can add to that. Make sure you have a suitable background when you turn on that camera, because you can see some pretty interesting things. Take a look around you before you turn that camera on.
Another thing I think that's really important to stomp on that is when when someone asks you, do you have questions? You should always have questions, right?
Yes.
And
Yes.
it's one of those things where, you know, it's like, do you have questions? No. Or do you have questions? Like, yes, you know, what's this, you know, what's it going to be like? Who am I going to work with? You know, what are the, you know, what are things I can be practicing and getting ready, and just showing interest. And a lot of times that, you know, being, you know, avid about wanting to learn, wanting to be part of the situation, right? That's a huge plus. That's a big bonus. And yeah, and it shows that you care, right? And a lot of times that's I would rather have someone that loves to learn and cares than someone that is an expert, right? I can teach someone, you know, about the particular data I work with. I can't make them want to learn and want to care.
Yeah,
Couldn't agree with you more.
yeah, and just to back off that, I think what I have all, you know, taken with me through my career is the grass is truly greener where you water it, right? Is a big saying that I kind of resonates with me, and especially in today's day and age, right? I feel like a lot of individuals will job hop to try to move up into different areas and everything, when there may be a really good opportunity within their own team, to you know, put in a little bit of work, ask those questions, right, and continue learning, to be able to make their own path within a current situation that they are now. And I resonates with me because I did something similar, right, where I was with American Systems, I left to take on a new challenge, and then eventually came back and boomerang back to American Systems, and in order to continue to build my career with this company. So that's always something that kind of resonates with me for sure.
I'd actually like to piggyback, jumping back to the interview questions and asking questions after an interview. Think about it from the interviewer's standpoint. Don't necessarily ask questions like about benefits for you. That's for later. Ask questions, as JT was saying, that really will show that you're interested and inspired and you're thinking about the potential of the position. That's just one thing I've noticed, is that it can be entertaining when the questions are all me, me, me. The interview is a two-way street, but show yourself in your best light and ask questions about the potential employer. But back to things I wish somebody would have told me earlier in my career, I would actually say it's a kind of a three-parter. It's be fearless. There are no mistakes. Take a risk on that job that you're not sure about, and you can always find your way back. If it doesn't work out, there's always forks in the road, and you'll find where you belong. But the other piece of it is, don't ever stress about applying for a job. Like, don't overthink, well, I don't know if I want this job or not. If you don't, it's the old lottery saying, if you don't play, you can't win. So if you don't throw your hat in the ring, you don't have a shot at it. Go through the process, go through the interview. If nothing else, it's practice interviewing. And then you get an offer, then you have something to actually think about in terms of what you want in life. But I think a lot of people spend way too much time looking at whether they even want to apply for a job because they're just not sure it's the right fit. Jobs aren't always what they look like on paper, so go for it. That would be something I wish somebody would have told me earlier.
And I think that's very worth foot stomping. Another piece of that is the concept of interviewing, right? If you're in the market, you don't want your first interview to be your dream job, right? You want that to be like your 5th or 10th interview, right? You want, when you're interviewing for that dream job, you want to have interviewed for, at least, 4 or 5 similar jobs. So when you do get that dream job interview, you're prepped, you're ready. You've got the questions in your head. You've got, your ambitions that you want to express and bring that to the interview, right? The other thing is that you're going to find when you get into interviews, especially the first few of them, you might get caught off guard, right? And you might be like, why would they ask that? And like one of my favorite questions to ask in an interview is like, do you like puzzle games like Sudoku or board games and things like that? And some people just kind of look at me like I'm crazy. And it's an odd question, but it's a good question because that tells me that you, for fun, you like solving problems, right? And people that solve problems for fun, I mean, that's a good person to have on your team. So yeah, and that'll help you go into that dream job interview practiced, right? And it's like this, practice makes everything.
Are we in the next question?
We can
Let's
go.
go ahead and
Career
move on.
exploration?
Thank you,
And-
guys. That's awesome.
And just for something to think about for those in chat is it was brought up a few times, and my thought is I'd love to hear, what are you doing for a networking event? I want to hear what is lined up for you right now. Because if your answer is nothing, then maybe you should change that. Sounds like that would be the first step in the right direction. But Alyssa, what are we on the next?
Yep, let's move on
grouping?
to the next question. So we're going to go to the career exploration category. So the first question is, how would you recommend breaking into data analytics if a student is a career changer or someone who is entry level? So maybe we'll pick on whoever would like, yeah.
Thomas, I think Thomas needs this question.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to piggyback off that last point as well, networking not only doesn't have to be like a meetup or specific group, which those are all fantastic to explore in as well. But I take my dog park to the morning, or I take my dog to the dog park every morning, right? And there's always a group of us there, and through that I've built relationships with certain individuals at other companies, right, that are in a similar field, right? So it doesn't just have to be at one specific meetup on a set date. It can be anywhere. You're out with friends or doing something that you love to do. You have a conversation with somebody and it's just you find common ground, right? It is always a big thing. But as far as breaking in, I think outside of the networking piece, I think building a portfolio from the data analytics piece is huge, along with the resume. I know there was a question in the chat about, is it worth it doing a resume or a portfolio? I can say from our standpoint at American Systems, as a government contractor, we do legally have to have a resume for each and every individual candidate to follow certain compliances. So we do have to have a resume, and then to have a portfolio on top of that is definitely a huge plus. And then I know there's other, avenues to explore as well to kind of continue to grow your skill set, like utilizing like HackerRank, DataCamp, doing data competitions on Kaggle as well, are all great websites to use to keep sharpening your skill set. And then the last thing I'll like to say is, don't give up. Right. It can absolutely be frustrating continuing to apply to jobs, but you never know when that next application is going to hit and be the one that kind of get your foot in the door. So don't ever give up. Even if you think you've hit a wall, keep pushing through and keep going.
To piggyback on that, I would say, don't look at anything as a failure. So if you have an interview and you don't get the job, don't be afraid to ask for feedback. That's an opportunity for you to grow and learn how to interview better next time, or how to present your best foot forward next time. And I would also say there are a lot of really great fellowship and paid internship programs out there. Apply for them, get your foot in the door, look for opportunities where you're already working to actually maybe support somebody in a slightly unofficial capacity and show them what you can do, and just start building up your reputation where you are even.
Yeah, when I was in college, my senior year, I worked for a market research company as an intern, and that gave me so much leverage to get myself a full-time job in New York. So, I mean, internships are very important.
Well, I definitely second the internships, considering that's what I recruit for. But I realize that that's not always something that perhaps a career changer can do. You need a position that has benefits. You need a full-time job. So how do I go about getting that experience? I see some of our seasoned students that are doing a career change go and get that experience just in their everyday world. They make acquaintances with local business owners and say, can I help you with some pain points, and do a data analysis for you as a complimentary project. They start to build those relationships. They network, their name gets out there to other business owners. I see a lot of students go and volunteer with political campaigns and help do analytics for them as well. So if you look in your surrounding areas, there's ways to gain that experience, whether it's volunteer or maybe a small paid internship on the side while you're needing to work a full-time career, and then get yourself into that full-time career within data analytics where you want to land eventually.
Would you say that the consulting field is something that would be, have you seen much of in your experience for any of you? Or is it more of just all or nothing, or side gig of an internship? And that's really what that happens with the career changers, is it's really hard to make that plunge.
Right.
So if they're going to do it, what would you suggest? How would you make that plunge? Would it be straight to go to that job and find that job, or? It's a hard one, right?
Yeah, I mean, I would say it would be really hard to be a consultant, because I feel like you need to have experience. And so consultants usually have a huge expertise in that area. So that seems more unlikely. I would say probably you'd have to start at entry level or something similar, and grow fast from there.
Okay. Alyssa, I'll take the next question. Okay. I had it reduced. I thought you didn't have it up, and I was like, where you put it? But I have it now. So, what if any, certifications or certificates are highly sought after in the data analytics? I'm going to throw that one to John, if you wouldn't mind answering that one.
So that's a bit of an odd one. I'm going to say the worst one. So I've been in the federal government for a long time, right? And one of the things that we care about is with cyber, with security, with risk management frameworks and things like that. You have to have certain credentials in order to to be able to have accounts with privilege, right? And so Security Plus and things like Security Plus, which you really wouldn't naturally think I need that for data analytics or data science per se. Well, you kind of do, especially in the federal government, because a lot of these systems are going to require to have some type of certification to get you to a particular level in the 8570 schema, and 8750 schema. And so that's one of those odd ones that it's very, very helpful because you can't get any type of privilege on certain systems without it, right? I would say there are other good programs, but again, a lot of these things are the kind of the standard things that you see through like MIT has a good data science certificate. Stanford has a good data science certificate, but those are all name based. One thing that I found really interesting as an undergraduate, and this is going to be a little bit of an odd one, but if you're new to data science, Kaggle actually has a really nice certificate on Introduction to Python and Machine Learning, and it's a nice little thing that you can spin through a few months and get that under your belt. And as a young person entering the field, it's a good way to get introduced to data science. It's a good way to get introduced to Python. And I think it's one of those things that shows that you're trying, that you're working, that you want to get introduced to this.
I guess not specific to certifications or certificates, but for those of you who might be considering federal employment in the future, there are different ways to come into the federal government. And one of the areas that we have something called direct hire authority, which means we don't have to go through the standard rigmarole of that wonderful tool we all know as USA Jobs, is if you have that professional degree. And so you're all in this analytics program, and you'll come out with that master's, and that master's makes you eligible for direct hire authority, which is a beautiful thing. So if you didn't know that exists, that's good for you to know that you are eligible to come into a professional series in the federal government space.
Yeah, and on the federal government side, on the contractor side, I can second the Security Plus certification as well. That is a big requirement from a lot of our IT folks and jobs for all the reason mentioned as well. I'm curious, do you guys see a lot of requirements for like Power BI certifications or Tableau certifications at all? And it can be for Yvette, Lisa, Evelyn, anything along those lines for any of the roles that you hire for, or anything like that?
We do see a little bit of Tableau. There's like Domo. There is that use case. I would say it's a nice to have. It's not a like need to have. The data science group that I work with, if you know Python or R or how to use them with AI tools like ChatGPT, then those are all positives. In my industry, it's all very proprietary, syndicated big data sets. They call them, like Nielsen big data. And everything that goes into audience measurement, like audience measurement and advertising measurement is a huge analytical field. Also attribution measurement, which is just A/B testing all day long and doing attribution, exposed control methodologies and regression models. And, so it's really depending on the path that you're interested in, but, learning regression models, learning A/B testing methodologies, if you're interested in the audience and advertising, agency media space, Nielsen data is number one.
Also, just to pick up on one of the notes in the chat, there was a question a few inches up about web certifications, whether it's AWS or Azure and things like that. And that can always help you, because what it all comes down to, whether you're talking Tableau, Power BI, or one of the cloud certs, is I think it shows that you're trying to grow your general level of competency and your ability to be flexible and to jump right in and work. And that's really what you're trying to communicate when you're trying to get your foot in the door.
Okay, so we're gonna move forward a little bit for the next question. This is all great feedback. Love to see this and hear from people that have been doing it for so many years. You get to see it. So the next on that line of thinking, what technical and soft skills are essential to work in the data analytics field? And I'm going to give it to Elisa.
So I think I have a unique position in that I work with data scientists. I am not a data scientist. So in terms of soft skills, what I do is I take all of the data that's given to me, and I can get 50 different data sets coming at me from all over the place, from different vendors, different sources. Being a media publisher, I have to consolidate my audience data from every platform that A&E is on, whether that's Hulu, Philo, Sling, and anywhere. All of our own and own websites and properties, wherever we air content. So I'm getting data coming at me from all different places. The soft skill is being able to take it all and tell a narrative. Being able to create a story. What is the insight of all of this data? How do you visualize that in a easy, digestible way so that people who are not analytical can understand what you're talking about? What are the main things you need to show them that are going to help identify the problem, the key point, the insight that you're trying to explain to them? And so that's really the soft skill that I've been trying to really build over my career, is how do you take something extremely complex and technical and has so many data points and succinctly put it into like a one-page, slide that says like, and here are the results. This is what you should do. This is where you should err. This is how great that ad did. This is how amazing the return on investment was. This was, you should have aired more of that creative. You should be more in this market and that market, air more in this show, in this program. So things like that.
I feel like Tom, you might see this a lot, or
yeah, I was just gonna say I absolutely agree that being able to understand the business impact of the data sets that you're looking at and going through is huge, and like Lisa said, telling the story about that is really gonna be able to set you apart when you do get in that role and start to go through all the data and information. And then from the technical skill sets from a recruiting standpoint, kind of what I see is the heavy in Python, SQL, and then the baseline Excel as well, are typically three of the bigger ones that we see, at least for on the government side that we recruit for Navy and Coast Guard type work.
And I would really emphasize the soft skills piece in a couple areas. I think there are a couple of skills, and Elisa touched on it, but I'd really like to hone in on the learn how to give an elevator pitch. how to give the so what statement about all the work you've been doing. Not everybody has time to hear every little step you did along the way. It doesn't mean your work isn't appreciated, but you need to be able to make it concise, deliver it efficiently, be respectful of people's time, and just get that point delivered. And then just as a general recommendation that I give to pretty much anyone who'll listen is I really encourage people, whether it's the brand name Crucial Conversations class or some other soft skills type training where you learn how to breathe and interact with people and not always take criticism as a negative thing, because sometimes it's just needing more information and everybody comes at things from a different perspective, and just how to interact with people professionally. That's something I will always encourage people to do.
I would say another important part of this is the multifaceted nature of what you have to be in order to be a good data engineer, a good data scientist, right? It's people that became data scientists because they were doing data science. Were either, in my case, like it was a statistician that picked up a lot of computer science skills, or you see computer scientists that pick up a bunch of math skills, right? You also see people that specialize in particular types of data, like they start in a field. That field is some type of has some type of system that generates data, like we heard earlier about this, all this advertising data, news data, right? And having specializations in particular types of data. Like my introduction to data science, I was actually libpcap. It was TCP dump data, and got really good at reading that in with C code and understanding it, analyzing it, and reading that into Perl and things like that. But having this multifaceted specialization, right, where you pick up good skills across the field. In being that, but yeah, I'd say that's a really big important thing in data science, because it's not just one thing. You always see that circle, the three circles with like statistics and computer science and being a subject matter expert, right? And combining those three things together is really what makes up a lot of data science and data engineering. So I think that's the thing, and just having that love of learning. I think that's how a lot of people end up getting pulled into data science, is because of that, having that love of learning math, learning stats, learning computer science, learning data, learning, you're always learning. If you don't love learning, data science is not, in my opinion, it's not a good choice.
As I forgot I was on mute. These are great answers. So we're going to go into the trending in data analytics, and we're going to see what the future may hold. And the question is, for AI, what kind of future do you see for data analytics careers related to AI? And I would like to ask Yvette, please.
Well, I think it is going to be an interesting thing to see how it actually plays out. But I think that there's a lot of fear surrounding AI, and there's a lot of hype around AI. And I think that the reality is going to be somewhere in the middle, and working the models and learning how to build them and how to mature them, and the entire industry that has become ethical AI, I think is going to take on a life of its own. But we'll see. I mean, we're doing some very interesting things as trends come and go, and you can get JT talking about our graph rag models and all the fun stuff we're doing, and he'll just go on for you. But there's just lots of opportunities and different applications for each different industry, and I think it's only going to grow. So.
Thank you. Go ahead.
So I think the future. I definitely see AI being an efficiency play first and foremost. I mean, in all of the work that we're doing, I feel like we're not at the point where it replaces a physical researcher. There's still all the narrative building and all of the just human instinct on business outcomes and business needs. I think it's a great tool to do a lot of the work that would take you a lot of time to do faster. And so it's definitely just going to make everyone more efficient, and more efficient. Yeah.
I'm laughing at your comment only because there was an article I read not too long ago about a proposal for a new Turing test. To basically, you have to be able to build a company and make it profitable, and that's something a computer can't do on its own.
Oh, that's great. I hadn't heard that one. Anyone else in terms of in your field or your company, do you see a different outlook in terms of where, what do you see for your career related to AI?
I think AI will be used in pretty much every capacity down the road. However, I think it's going to take a pretty long time to implement in certain areas. I would say that, obviously you see the tech heavy companies, right, that implement it immediately, your Microsofts, your Metas, your, the Mag 7s, if you will. But for example, for us on the government side, there's so many and like Yvette was saying, right, there's so much red tape and things that we have to make sure are safe in order to implement AI, that it's going to take a lot to kind of go through all that to make sure that we're not putting people at risk when using it. And so I think it will be, continue to be used in that way of making things more efficient and automate certain tasks, but not necessarily take over the world. At least hope, not anytime soon.
So we'll continue on. How has remote work changed the landscape of opportunities in data analytics? And I know you have been, but Evelyn, how would you like to start us out on that?
I'm sorry, did you say me?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I wasn't sure.
If you wouldn't mind.
How has remote work changed the landscape? Well, I think it's really broadened the landscape. I mean, you can work from anywhere and work on anything, right? You're not limited by your geographic location or the project that you're working on. Coming from my company, we're a little different. We're not really remote. Our leadership has a different perspective. They like us to be collaborative in the office for the most part. So, but I think the opportunities are out there. I think it's a great opportunity to be able to be remote, and it just really opens things up to you. And I think data analytics is the perfect field to be in if you want that remote type of career.
Just adding to that, I think that was also a great point. I mean, A&E is our parent company is Walt Disney, and while Disney does have the not full remote policy, my company does for the time being, and there is the difference over time, because when I started my career, obviously everything was in person, and I do feel like if you're starting at a company, there's huge value in being in person to build that collaborative approach and to build that community and that culture that I found so rewarding. I mean, I feel like as you get to the stage of where you have a family and your priorities are now, shifting, work-life balance and working from home is definitely preferred. But in the start of your career, if you are of that time frame, having work colleagues and networking that way, because as people leave the company, you can still hang out with them and they go off at work at other places. And I still talk to people from all the companies that I've used to work at, because we used to hang out all the time. That just really builds a great collaborative approach and a culture that's very important and shouldn't be missed.
I would the thing I would add to that is especially over the past 10 years, we've seen a massive move to the cloud, and you can access Azure from pretty much anywhere, right? You can access Amazon from anywhere. You can access Google from pretty much anywhere. And our the systems that we're working in, right? They're these large behemoth parallel massive computational systems. And they're nowhere physically near us. It's one of those things where compute has gotten so large and so cheap that you pretty much have to work in a cloud system like that once your data starts growing to a particular size. So even if your job's not remote, it's going to feel remote, which is kind of an interesting, funny part, right? Because even when you go into the building, you're logging into a computer that's on the other side of the country, probably, or at least not within it's going to be several hundred miles away from wherever you are, and that's kind of a weird aspect. And at first, it was. I remember working on, massive Linux clusters, and they were in the closet down the hall because that's where they had to be. But it's not like that anymore. And so even going into the office, sometimes it feels remote because the systems I'm using and the systems I'm working on all the time, I have no clue where they are. I know it says East Coast somewhere. So yeah. So it's kind of a weird thing. Yeah.
These are all good. And we're going to have just Thomas answer this last one. Not that all of you didn't have 400 list. We want some question and answers to get after this. So really quickly, Thomas, how would you advise students to plan for their future careers in data analytics based on current trends from your perspective?
Yeah, I think going off the last point, right, continue getting familiar with AI and how it can be used to kind of help make your work more efficient, right? And can work alongside it in your career. Continue to build your technical skill sets, your Python, your SQL knowledge, and look into ways to grow within that area as well. And then keep being an avid learner. Like JT said, everybody who's successful in a STEM field always loves learning, right? And it never stops, truly never stops. And that's in any field, really, as well. Always keep learning and keep growing, and you'll set yourself up for success.
Excellent. And I wish we had 2 hours, but I know that we have only a few more minutes, and I'm sure people are on their own schedules right now, and we value your time. So we want to open it up for questions from our students and staff. We'd love to do it. Thank you for all these answers. This is a lot. So Alyssa, do you have any questions that I may have missed? A couple of times I went through, and some great answers.
Yeah, this has been fabulous. I mean, you guys have hit so many of them pretty much right on the head out the gate, but go ahead for any of those in the audience. Feel free to pop additional questions in the chat, but I do have a few here. So going back to kind of the interview tips conversation, we had someone who typed in kind of the idea of, what if you don't have a technical background or an IT background and you're interviewing for those types of roles? How do you make yourself still stand out as a candidate in those interviews? And is it still possible for you to get the job, even if you don't have a technical background? So I'll throw it to anyone who would like to answer.
So I would say, yes, there's always an opportunity to demonstrate what we were just talking about, what Thomas was just saying about your interest in learning and your love of learning, and your passion, and that you're going out there on your own and you're developing new skills. And join a group and volunteer and do some work on the side. You can put information on your resume about that work, and you can actually build your credibility and your professional reputation, even if you don't have all of that foundational skill or certifications to start with. So I would say yes.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing. Another question that had come in, and it come up a couple times, so hopefully this will answer for most students, was just generally, what are your stance on submitting portfolios when you're applying for positions? Do you see them as a value add? And what exactly are you looking for when students present or apply with a portfolio? So once again, I'll open up to anyone who'd like to answer.
Yeah, I think submitting, especially if you don't have a background that is more technical, I think putting any work that you do have to work related to data analytics and your portfolio is big to have in there as well, to showcase that and then be able to speak on that as well, right? It definitely doesn't hurt including it in there. And then as far as the things that we look for is any presentations that you have up on a public profile, like on the Tableau or GitHub of those projects, and making it's succinct and efficient and highlighting the different business impacts that you were able to obtain from that data in your portfolios, and kind of telling that story is definitely a huge plus. And what we look for, to be able to see what story you're telling on that portfolio.
Awesome. In the portfolio vein, any preferences on like sites, Kaggle, GitHub, either or?
I think either or. I think Kaggle is great and a great resource. I know GitHub's been around forever, as well. So I think either one is great. And I know Kaggle has so many different resources as well.
Awesome. Thank you. Had a question come in just in generally, any resources that you would encourage new students to utilize to network with employers, or just any tips for building connections in the field?
Personally, I always loved job fairs, whether I was on the candidate side or the interviewer side. I think it's a great opportunity to just learn about different potential opportunities and to introduce yourself and get some practice talking to people. That's just one thing.
And I'll chime in here from the SNU side of things. We definitely encourage all SNU students in the audience to reach out to our dedicated career services team, who could definitely assist you in connecting with employers in a variety of different ways. You're literally doing it right now. By being here at this webinar, you are making the extra steps to make those connections. And so you're doing the work already. So kudos to you. But there are tons of great opportunities and resources to make connections. For example, if you're not familiar, SNU has our job board handshake. Many of the employers who are on this panel this evening have employer profiles and accounts on Handshake. It's a great space to go where you can look at and see what opportunities are available, what events are happening, what jobs or internships are available, and apply for those. So again, all of that is a wonderful resource through our career services team. So just plugging that in specifically for all of our SNU folks in the audience. Before we wrap things up, I'll get to one question here. I see here in the chat. Looks like someone is actually interviewing for a position here shortly for a data analyst role. You had mentioned kind of this before in interviewing, that you really want students or candidates to come with questions. What are some of those questions you think that would be really good for a candidate to prepare in advance to ask during an interview?
So I think
I think
a good spot.
independent of what the job is. Go ahead, JT.
So so if you can find out some information about the pipelines, like what types of data are they collecting, how are they collecting it, and in all likelihood, right, there's going to be some type of massive conglomeration merger process, right? And so I think having questions that represent you already have some understanding of what their data pipelines look like, and the types of data engineering that they have to deal with on a daily basis, right? And so it coming in with that you have some basis, right, in how their data is collected, how their data is processed, and the direction that it has to go in for analytics, right? And again, you can couch these in the forms of questions, in the sense of, like, I would expect, since you're doing geoscience data that you're collecting, maybe it's something related to earthquakes, right? And so there's going to be Richter scale data, and it's going to be collected from a bunch of different places, and there's probably going to be a network of things like that, right? And showing that you have some understanding of the data, how it's collected, how it's merged, put together, and specific questions like, what types of systems you're using to do blah, 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 right? And again, that shows that you care. It shows that you're invested, and it also shows that you've put some thought into, if you got the job, the types of systems you'd have to be dealing with, right? Yvette?
Yeah, I think regardless of what area the position is in, you can never go wrong asking what would be your top priorities to help me to know how to hit the ground running in the first 60 days, 90 days, or if you can ask what would be the biggest challenges I might expect to face and how to prepare for them. Anything that shows you're thinking about how to support the potential employer.
Awesome. Thank you all so much. This advice and the insights you all shared this evening have been absolutely fantastic. So just really, really appreciate, again, you being here and sharing all of that with all of those in the audience. And I know we're a little over time, so I promise I'll try and speed through this. But before we wrap up our panel event, just want to go over some final thoughts. So for those in the audience, please go ahead and use and explore Career 360. Just add the link here in the chat. It's the one-stop shop for all things related to your career exploration journey and data analytics. All 3 of these webinar recordings will also be posted on Career 360. So again, you could refer back to them at any point in time. We encourage you to utilize SNHU's job board Handshake and start researching and applying for jobs or internships of interest. So employers that are here this evening, American Systems, A&E, Disney, they all have Handshake employer profiles, and they post those career openings targeting SNH students like all of you. So go ahead and take advantage of that. We encourage you to connect with your peers here tonight, as well as our panelists here this evening on LinkedIn. Those connections are super vital in this industry, and networking is key. We also encourage you to go ahead and bookmark or research the websites of the employers here tonight, sign up for those job alerts, reach out, ask questions. And finally, just as a reminder, you are never alone in your career journey. Our dedicated career advisors are here to assist you personally, so please don't hesitate to email or call us anytime. And so we hope you enjoyed tonight's panel. Panelists, once again, thank you all so much for being here. We truly appreciate your time and insight. It has been wonderful. We hope all of you who have joined us for this 3-part webinar series enjoyed yourselves as well. We will be following up with all those in the audience, all the attendees via email, so be on the lookout for that in your SNHU email. So for now, you all can simply go ahead and just click leave the meeting as we conclude our presentation this evening. Thank you all again so much, and I hope you all have a wonderful evening. Take care, everyone.
Take care.